Welcome everyone coming on. All right. And here we go. We are streaming.
Yay.
Okay. We good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. The delay always trips me up. So whether you're following us on Facebook or here on the webinar, good to go. We're excited to have you. So what I ask is that everyone on the webinar or on Facebook, we're going to be able to answer the questions at the end. So this is about a 20-minute education series with Chef Nikki Ledford here. She's on my left. She might be on your right. I don't know. But she is an amazing woman, a friend of mine, and has a plethora of knowledge on everything nutrition. 20 minutes education. But in particular, this topic of immunity and different things that you can do to build up your immune system while you're in this confinement period, as well as while we're in this transition of coming out of confinement. So Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you
Hi.
are right now?
I'm in a log cabin. No, I'm at my in-laws' house in Visalia. We last time we talked was was at the beginning of the quarantine. It
That's
was
right.
like the first week of it when I was still in San Diego. But we decided to come up to Visalia, which is in the Central Valley of California, and just give our kiddo a chance to hang out with grandparents and get a little bit more help because we still have a newborn. She's still a newborn. So
How old is she now?
she is going to be 12 weeks, so 3 months next week. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's so weird. It's a weird time anyway, and then to have
Yeah.
a newborn is even weirder.
It's
So
nice to see you go through it, and I'll be there very soon as
I
well.
know, yeah, yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, this is kind of actually, for those of you watching, this is kind of secret news. Nikki and I, so we do dinner together at least once a month with a couple other ladies. And last year, one by one, each of us got pregnant. And so Nikki was the first
Yeah.
to have her little one. And then one of our friends just had her little one. Another friend's having her little one on Monday. And then we'll see when mine comes sometime in June. So
Yeah.
it's pretty fun. So we're all getting used to quarantine life and just going to be more quarantined with babies now.
Yes.
So so welcome Nikki, and glad you could be on with us today. And Chef Nikki is going to be actually doing a lot more education for us moving forward on our company, our corporate platform, because we now have a nutrition program that we can offer our corporate clients, as well as those of you out there who don't have any wellness program to follow. So she'll be able to provide education with us, as well as this awesome nutrition challenge that she created. So but today it's really about, okay, you've been in this confinement for a month and a half, almost 2 months, and just wanted to talk about foods that can help build your immunity, because if you've been confined for so long and not around other people, and now we're going to start going out and being around other people, what are the kinds of foods that you should be eating anyway? So Nikki, can you take it away with some ideas, some nutrition tips for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot of us, depending on where you are in the country, the stay-at-home orders have been, either more rigid or more flexible. But either way, it looks like, some people are starting to move towards reopening certain businesses or kind of just creating more space. Like I know in San Diego, we're allowed to go walk the beach or walk through parks, and we can't sit and stay, but we can kind of move around and be around other people. But now there's social distancing orders that you have to stay a certain distance away from people who you're not staying at home with. And so I think that as we start to move out of the home, I think a lot of people are still potentially nervous about the virus. or having like what they call like a resurgence of it, or seeing maybe those numbers of positive cases go up. And so one of the things that I like to talk to people about is focusing on the things that you can control, because obviously we can't really control that our world is going through this right now. And we can't control like all the policies being put out about what we can and can't do, but we can take a little bit of control over our habits and our environment at home and the things that we're doing at home, just to support our own well-being, whether that be physical or mental or emotional. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is through what you're eating. And so, yeah, I thought we would talk today about just how we support our immune system through our food and through our habits, because they're all, where they're all interrelated. So,
Yeah. Well, let's dive into some of the key foods that, people can access at the market or order, and things that they can have at home that can help them build their immune system at home, as well as they go out into public and are around other people. Like, I'd like to learn that too, because I know a little bit about probiotics and vitamin C and getting vitamin D, of course. But I know you have a plethora of knowledge there. So let's just dive in.
Yeah. Well, for the first thing I would start with, just with food, just to keep it really simple, is to have a variety of fruits and vegetables in your rotation, especially as the weather's getting nicer. I know in a lot of places, farmers markets have opened back up, and they may not be like farmers markets where you can walk through, but you can do drive-through pickups at farmers markets. If you're having a hard time finding fresh fruits and vegetables through Instacart or like Whole Foods Prime Delivery or something like that, you can go through that direction. But really, just any sort of fresh produce, even frozen produce, you're getting fiber from those fruits and vegetables, which is really good in aiding your digestion and just kind of detoxifying your body and moving everything through in a timely manner. You're getting all the nutrients, micronutrients from those fruits and vegetables that help support all the different systems in your body. So I kind of like to talk about, because people love to talk about supplements, but we need, instead of talking about vitamin C, vitamin D, and all these things, which are important and they do have their functions, one thing that I heard a long time ago was that we need all of them all the time. So it's not that we need vitamin C in particular, or we need magnesium in particular. We need all of the micronutrients all of the time to support a healthy body. And so the best way to do that is to eat whole, real foods that have those nutrients in them. So the best place to start would be produce. And then if you want to, get a little bit more specific with the produce and how to prepare and eat it, combining it with a little bit of fat makes a lot of the fat soluble vitamins that are in produce more bioavailable, which means that your body can use them more easily than if you were to eat them on their own.
So, for example, fats like avocado.
Yeah, avocado, cooking things in like a butter, like having butter or olive oil on your greens or something like that, that makes the vitamin A like more available in your system.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's, the foods work together. So there are some things that are good raw. There's, you get more nutrients from some things being raw. You get more nutrients from some foods being cooked. So that's why I say just don't make it super complicated and get super in the weeds about it. Just try all kinds of different preparations and make sure you're including produce at each one of your meals. And another way to do that would be, and I see a lot of people, and we talked about this a little bit with our first live, talking about snacks or snacking while you're at home, because that's kind of a pitfall people are falling into, just kind of being at home and bored. Instead of snacking on, quote, snack foods like packaged processed foods, just eat some fruit. I mean, you get some sweetness, but then you get so much more than just that. And I think a lot of, especially in kind of the wake of low carb days, people have developed kind of this fear of fruit, like, oh, it's too much sugar and I'm going to gain weight from eating too much fruit. Right now, like, if fruit is a much better option than grabbing for, treats and sweets and chips and things in the pantry. And it'll give you more nutrients, more water, more fiber, and all that stuff that really supports our body overall.
I enjoy the fruit a lot at the
Yeah.
moment, being pregnant. Like it's
Hmm.
like candy almost. Like
Yeah.
my son loves mangoes and bananas. So the fact that I have a toddler at home that wants a snack all the time
Yeah.
allows me to also snack, but the fruits are like a nice little treat.
Hmm.
So I have to eat them fast because it's hot here in San Diego, wherever you're from, it is hot here in San Diego right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
The fruits go fast. But yeah, nice. Those are good. Those are awesome tips.
And then, so I always like to kind of start off with like, okay, what should you be including? Because it's
Yeah,
always sad when people tell you like, well, stop eating, we'll
right.
stop eating this thing. But I am going to kind of go into that just because it is really important for supporting our immune
Yeah.
system, is to avoid the things that, um, that depress our immunity.
Yeah.
And so things like that would be those like sugary sort of treats. And so that's an easy swap. It's like, okay, I shouldn't really be overindulging in the sugary stuff right now if I want to support my immune system.
Mhm.
Really refined sugars or processed foods are just not, they really don't have anything that is beneficial for you at this time. And, we can argue that, some sweet treats like having, birthday cake or wedding cake at like a wedding is part of like a social thing that, and having birthday cake at a birthday is, you're enjoying the camaraderie and you're enjoying the group.
Mhm.
Right now, we're obviously not enjoying group things very often. So,
Yeah.
that interplay of like our cultural social cultural norms of like enjoying things together isn't there. Obviously, like you want to enjoy your food, and if you want to have a treat now and then, like obviously your body is very resilient,
Mhm.
and can withstand that to some extent. But I think that people are using a lot of food to cope right now and feel better. And so if you are one of those people that finds yourself reaching for sugary things or baking cookies all the time or baking coffee cake, all, like just having constant treats, that's going to depress your immune system, if that is something that is in your regular rotation. So yeah, swapping out for the fruit. The other thing that really doesn't stand to benefit anybody at all, is alcohol. And there just really isn't any overall benefit from it. It impacts not only our immune system, but also our sleep. And if we don't sleep well, then that depresses our immune system. Like, it's all intertwined. And so if we are interrupting our sleep because we're drinking too much alcohol or even just a little alcohol and we're really sensitive to it, that's the other thing, is some people are more sensitive to alcohol and don't metabolize it as well as other people. And so if you're one of those people that finds yourself waking up in the middle of the night after you have a drink and you're just kind of alert at like 2 or 3 in the morning, you probably don't metabolize it very well. Yeah, it's just great to limit it and just choose some other things like some kombucha, like fermented foods to support your gut, if you can get that ordered, or if you can grab some when you're at the store, when you make a trip to the store.
I think that's actually to go off of that real quick, like being someone, because those who've had prior addictions, this might be a time when addictions can kind of rear their ugly head again.
Yeah.
Right? Like food addiction is a really easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Overeating, even limiting food. And there's a lot of different kinds of eating disorders, but for the most part, I think everyone has experienced some kind of disordered eating if they've been on some yo-yo diet, and then alcohol. And I know that, those parents, just from what I've observed in my, social media, doing social media, as well as talking to people, like alcohol can be a way of coping when you have young children at home and you're just exhausted at the end of the day and you don't want to, you kind of want to numb.
Yeah.
So my thinking there is, and I'm always doing some personal development because one, I struggled with my own addiction with eating disorder, is just like being aware of my emotions during the day and what I'm doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I do find myself snacking, however, choosing the fruits because I want to give those to my son. So I am snacking more. I'm pregnant, but I like the fruit is actually very satisfying. Or I have one of those even a fruit popsicle, which does
Mm-hmm.
have sugar in it, but it's small and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then the alcohol, I don't drink alcohol, but one of the things I want people to think about that might be helpful is like look at how it impacts your sleep and your mood, because the people that do, I know people that don't want to drink alcohol but just get caught up in it because it's a way of numbing after a
Mm-hmm.
long day. It's like look at, kind of open your eyes to the perspective of what your life could look like if you got a good sleep and how
Yeah.
to improve mood, because it's kind of a spiral effect.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just
Yeah,
some,
and even alongside that, maybe not even people drinking it every night to numb, but just as a habit. Like they're
right,
just in a
totally.
habit of like, okay, I'm making dinner and I pour myself a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Um, I
Okay.
think that you don't necessarily know if it's something that has become a habit, you don't necessarily know how your body feels without it, how much better your sleep could be without it. Maybe if you have some other like niggling, like health issues going on, maybe some like headaches or some things like that. Just not really knowing how maybe eliminating that for a time would help you out. And ultimately, we have a Q&A in here about no alcohol, and somebody mentioned they only drink, one glass per night. Um, it really isn't doing anything beneficial on a physiological level. And so is it like you said, is it a way to kind of emotionally unwind? Is it part of a ritual that you look forward to? Those are things that you could perceive as positive benefit. But when we're talking about immunity and supporting your immune system specifically,
Yeah.
it's not doing anything to help your immune system. And
Yeah.
so that since that's kind of the focus that we're on
Yeah.
right now, I want to be emphatic about that, because even though it can be of benefit to us, in a social scenario when we're all hanging out and cheersing each other, or if it's something that we do to like connect with our spouse at night, like we both have a drink or something like, something like that, where it's part of a ritual, but ultimately, physically, it's not supporting the
Yeah.
parts of your body that are helping you fight against, um, you know, germs and what's out there, and keeping our body robust and resilient.
Yeah, and you've shared with a lot of the seminars you've taught with us is like how just trying, for those of you that find it just to be soothing, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just test for a couple weeks, using kombucha or some other form of a drink that
Mm-hmm.
might be healthier. I love, like fizzy water. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
my little one calls it fuzzy water,
Yeah.
like kind of flavored fuzzy waters like La Croix. And while it's not the same, right? But just test it for a couple weeks and see how you feel, see how your sleep is. And then
Yeah.
if you feel nothing, okay, we'll go
Yeah,
back.
there's no harm in just taking it out for a little while and just seeing what
Yeah,
happens and how you feel, and just paying attention. I mean, it's honestly just paying attention to how you feel with that. And I can use that to kind of go straight into the idea of caffeine. Um,
yeah,
because it's the same thing. Like, you don't know with caffeine, if you're overusing it, um, how cutting back will affect you. Obviously, with caffeine, there can be a withdrawal effect. So taking it out initially, you'll be like, "This is horrible. Like, I feel horrible now."
yeah,
But once you get over that hump of like, headaches or just generally feeling kind of low energy, caffeine is something just like alcohol that can impact your sleep. And while it's not necessarily, I actually just wrote a blog post about this recently, for someone about how sleep, how is sleep something that contributes to your overall nutritional health. So like, we think about sleep and what we eat being totally separate, but the thing is that if you don't sleep well, if you don't have a good foundation of sleep underneath you, you are unlikely to make the best choice for your health when it comes to eating the next day, because you're feeling depleted, groggy. You end up reaching for things that will spike your blood sugar and make you feel better in the short term, or drinking caffeine that will make you more alert in the short term. But that creates a negative feedback loop, right? Where
hmm
if you're drinking it too late in the day, it starts to impact your sleep. Then you sleep poorly again. And then the next day you're reaching for coffee again. And then by the end of the night, you're not feeling great. So you want to unwind and have some alcohol. And it's just this like really poor cycle that people oftentimes get caught into. Same thing with alcohol is true with caffeine. Some people metabolize it better than others. So you all know the people who can drink coffee right before bed and fall asleep. And then there are other people where if they, have one cup in the morning, it impacts their sleep at night. So, and they've given up on caffeine altogether. So, I would just say notice how these things are affecting you. Try, if it's something that you've been doing habitually for a long time, try taking it out and then seeing how you feel, and then bring it back in slowly and just notice how it affects you. And in the meantime, there's lots of things that you can swap in there that would be supportive to your immune system function. So like switching to tea, even if it's hot, like an iced tea, like an iced ginger tea, or iced green tea. Even though there's a little bit of caffeine in green tea, it affects people differently. It also has a lot of benefits in it. And even coffee, by and large, a lot of the evidence-based studies around coffee are mostly positive. But when it comes to protecting our sleep, that's kind of paramount when it comes to supporting our immune system. So if we aren't well rested, our immune system will be depressed for sure.
So I know in our the course that you taught, talking about just keeping caffeine before noon, one, just because of the half-life, I believe, of it, which I get major, like actually causes heartburn, but I never have gotten heartburn, only when I'm pregnant. So I've naturally just gotten out of drinking caffeine because I'm just like, it's not worth it. Heartburn's so fun. But that's, I think, for those of you that are like, you will never take my coffee away from me.
Try
to limit it before noon.
And I am not perfect at this. I go through phases in my life where the coffee starts to sneak in, and it's just like, I have more of it. Instead of having 1 cup in the morning, I have 2 cups. And then by the afternoon, it's like, oh, like a decaf, something sounds good, and then there's a little bit of caffeine in the decaf, and it starts to become just kind of like a comfort beverage. Like I just have it throughout the day as like, oh, look, I'm treating myself with a special drink, And so if what you're going for is treating yourself with something special, treat yourself with something special other than caffeine. And so finding something that would be, just as enjoyable or also enjoyable. It's just becoming aware and looking at your options. If you're really concerned about boosting your immunity, in the time where we're all concerned about catching something, even if we're asymptomatic, obviously people don't want to catch it and then spread it to others. And so, just really supporting yourself and in those ways.
So let's spend a few more minutes before we answer some questions on if you can talk a little bit about the vitamins that you'd recommend, or any kind of, if someone isn't taking supplements, right? Like what are some natural ones that would be good that they could pick up at Sprouts or something like that? And a little bit on hydration, and then we'll answer some questions.
So supplements, obviously we want to get the bulk of our nutrients from real foods, but it's, there are times to support our bodies with extra. And supplements are a really good way to do that. Obviously, do your own research about these things if you're concerned about maybe contraindications with medications that you're taking. Sometimes certain supplements interact with medications and in a negative way. And so I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacist. I'm just sharing just some very kind of classic supplements that will help your immune system, that are part of our bodies. These are things that when we take them in, our body uses them to support our immune system. So things, obviously like vitamin C, people, are eating oranges and all those things that we normally do to get vitamin C, but you can actually take more. It's people take, super doses of vitamin C with very little impact anywhere else. There aren't really a lot of side effects from it. The only thing I would say with vitamin C is if you're wanting to start taking more of it, is to move up in dosage slowly, because it can create like a loose stool or let's see what else, vitamin D. So everybody knows like that's the sunshine vitamin. So we actually absorb it best going outside. Vitamin D is wonderful for all kinds of body processes, not just for our immune system, but basically what it does is it's an anti-inflammatory. So there are many evidence-based studies that show that low vitamin D and you see a lot more inflammation in people, and more vitamin D, you see a lot more health in people. So just overall. And you can eat foods that contain vitamin D, so like salmon, sardines, egg yolks, and it's mostly from animal-based foods. So the other source is going out in the sun. So if you're a plant-based person and you don't eat any of those foods, being out in the sunlight, especially with like your back not covered, or maybe like your stomach not covered. So just going out in like a bathing suit, or, with like a sports bra on if you're a girl, or just having a shirt off if you're a guy, that's a better way to absorb the vitamin D from the sun.
Yeah. And one of the things I was going to add to that was what I learned from a medical provider I worked with was when you do go outside and get vitamin, because I'm as white as a polar bear. And even my son now, who's 3, is like, we need to put on sunscreen. But when you go out, one of the messages this provider was telling me, more of a functional medicine doctor, which I appreciated, was that you let your skin to be exposed until you start to feel it, a little bit of heat on it. And then you can put on your sunscreen, but let yourself absorb. And like for someone like me, that might happen faster than someone that's not more, like a darker skin color. Right. So, but that was like a good one. And then in terms of like going back to vitamin C really quick, in terms of for people that don't know, like what is the appropriate dosage of vitamin C each day, just normally? And then what would a super dose look like?
A super dose, I mean, we're talking like super doses would be like thousands and thousands of milligrams. And, a lot of people might have heard in the news that they were using IV vitamin C in China to help counteract the effects of the virus, or to help as like a treatment for the virus. You don't obviously have to get IV vitamin C from somewhere to help yourself. Really just taking, maybe 1,000 up to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day would be an appropriate amount to just support. I think most vitamin C dosages come in like 500 milligrams. So yeah, it would be like one, 2, 3 of those capsules, depending on which one you purchase.
And then are there any other like supplements or minerals that people should be taking right now? And then we can get to some questions.
Yeah. Zinc is huge. Like whenever people get sick, they take like those zinc lozenges and stuff. That's a real thing. Zinc is fantastic. You can get zinc from things like oysters, from what else? You can get it from pumpkin seeds. It's just a fantastic thing to take when you're sick. I take it in, I think there's some in my prenatal that I take. There's some in a packet that I take that has omega-3s, vitamin D, vitamin B12 in it. And then I also take it separately. And so it's just a really fantastic thing to take. Lysine, which is an amino acid, is great for supporting our immune system. A lot of people, so an example of lysine helping your immune system, a lot of people take it if they get cold sores. And so cold sores or canker sores are usually an indication that your immune system is depressed, and taking lysine helps clear those up. Or even people put on like topical lysine on their lips when they get a cold sore. And so that's just something that helps our body be more robust. And then another thing that's great to support right now would be N-acetylcysteine, so NAC. Which is the precursor to glutathione, which is something that is present in our liver that helps us detoxify our bodies. So I don't mean like detoxify in the way that like people talk about doing a juice cleanse to like detox. our body's actual natural way of detoxifying ourselves, which is in our liver. Our glutathione can get depleted from just environmental stressors, emotional stressors, even like chemical stressors, like taking a lot of Tylenol or ibuprofen. So glutathione can get depressed, which increases inflammation in our body. So supporting our NAC or our glutathione levels can be really helpful for supporting our immunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Nikki. Thank you. And
Yeah.
for those of you that are on, I want to respect the time. So we will be making sure that, this video will be on YouTube, but we will also have a blog attached to it with a lot of information that Nikki's talking about. But if you can stick on, let's spend another few minutes and have answer some questions. So we have Nikki, so we've got, and I'm right near Miramar, and there's some jets going overhead at the moment.
Fighter jet.
So in terms of supplements specifically for immunity, do you use elderberry syrup or gummies? I have heard conflicting evidence during the time of coronavirus and curious on your opinion.
Yeah, I've heard the conflicting stuff too. I feel like it falls in line with what some people were saying about taking Tylenol instead of ibuprofen, just the way that it interacts in our body. Honestly, I've talked with a handful of frontline workers, ICU nurses, about just this virus and the way that, they're still, not very clear on the way that it works in the body. People experience different reactions when they get the virus. And when people get very, very sick, the way that the body starts to shut down is still very confusing in some ways, how some people tend to bounce back and how some people tend to take a nosedive. And a lot of what they're looking at is basically if our immune system is suppressed, how the virus can kind of run rampant, but then also if our immune system is overactive or if we have certain things present that start to replicate really quickly, it can, influence the rest of the systems of our bodies, different organs, and actually be a detriment. And so I feel like the elderberry question is somewhere along those lines. Are we creating something in our body that the virus can actually attach to and replicate really quickly, that ultimately is not good for our organs? My personal opinion on it is I do dose with elderberry as a healthy person, and my son, I give it to my son as a healthy person. Once there's evidence of becoming sick or having a virus present, like you have a fever or something, I would just stop. I would stop taking it, just so that you're not maybe playing with fire, since we're not totally clear about what the mechanisms are there. But I think that it is good for supporting your immune system when you are not already sick, and then maybe removing it if you do start to feel a little under the weather, or have a fever or any sort of thing like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I will probably start doing that with my son too, myself. The other thing is, the last, it wasn't really a question, but do you know if mushrooms, so one of the Deb Tekla from UDEN asked, she heard from some doctors that if you put mushrooms in the sun for 15 minutes, they soak up way more vitamin D than on our skin, and mushrooms are one of the only foods that contain vitamin D, according to what they reported. So thoughts on that? Like you did mention, like sardines and other things contain vitamin D. Maybe you can expand upon that briefly.
Yeah. Mushrooms do contain vitamin D. They are a great source of vitamin D. I have not heard if you put them in the sun that they will soak up more vitamin D than we will on our skin. And quite honestly, if that's something you want to experiment with, go for it. Putting your mushrooms in the sun is not going to create any negative benefits. The only thing that I really would emphasize to people is simplicity. So if putting your mushrooms in the sun is creating like an obstacle to you, like getting things done, like if you can go spend 20 minutes in the sun, 10 minutes in the sun, relatively uncovered, and get vitamin D, and then have some mushrooms, and then have some salmon with dinner. You know, like just create something into your routine that makes it less complicated. Or even just taking, you know, 1,000 IUs, 2,000 IUs of vitamin D in a supplement is simple, it's effective, and not getting too deep into the weeds of like, okay, well, if I, you know, soak my mushrooms in the sun and like I wouldn't want to put that out there as like, here is a solution to your vitamin D problems. You need to put your mushrooms in the sun. Yeah. If you want to try that out and see if you experience benefit from that, you know, by all means, go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Well, that is a plethora of knowledge on immunity. And I was going to say, one of the things as we close here, and thank you so much, Chef Nikki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Central Coast area, right?
Not the coast. Definitely
okay,
not the coast.
Somewhere in
I'm in agricultural land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rural
So
California.
North of
Yes,
us.
I am north.
Try some of the, like, don't just try, like apply some of these techniques, food items to your diet the next couple weeks. But even though we're in this pandemic and that's kind of what we're focused on right now, these are things that you can do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're important things to do and start to apply. And for someone who, you know, isn't a food scientist, for me, seems reasonable to do like one thing at a time. The vitamin D and vitamin C is fairly easy, but, you know, adding some of those more vitamin D rich foods into my diet might take one at a time. You know, limiting caffeine is easier for me right now, but I am technically, I love caffeine, coffee in particular. So I can imagine as I have my child, like I'll want to get back into that, but thinking about limiting my caffeine to before noon and how it affects my little one, especially feeding. And then of course the alcohol component. So I really like the emphasis on what's going to give you improved immunity, but also sleep. That's a really objective measure in a way that you can use as something, right? We should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, right, you're most likely your mood, your productivity, everything's going to be impacted.
Right.
And I'd be the first one to attest to that. Like it's super important. I don't want anyone to take my sleep away. My toddler does, but yeah, that's just that. But
and with the sleep thing, just really quick, the thing that I would say is just go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Don't expect that you're going to be able to sleep in, or that you'll want to sleep in, or that you'll, you know, somebody on the street won't wake you up with their car in the morning. You know, the best way to get more sleep is just to go to bed earlier, and not say that you'll make it up on the back end, but just to protect it in the beginning. And then if you sleep in, great. And if you don't, you already got a full night of sleep.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chef Nikki. And you all we're going to be able to put her information in the blog, but where can people find you?
On Instagram, I'm at the Clean Plate Chef, and I have the cleanplatechef.com is my blog / recipe archive. There's over 400 recipes on there. So if you do need ideas of what to make while you're at home, I have many, and all kinds of foods. So gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, non-vegan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you are someone who works in a company and you would like to have a nutrition program to follow for your remote workers right now, because everyone's remote, contact us at getbetter@movement-rx.com or teresa.larson@movement-rx.com, and we can provide you with Chef Nikki's 20-day challenge.
Yay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking on. We love to keep this. We try to keep it to 20 minutes, but there's always so much good conversation. So give us your feedback. And if you have any more questions, go to the Facebook page and put it in the comments, and we'll be sure to get to them there. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.